Girl, 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 girl. Girl.
Don't lose inspiration. Don't be hard on yourself.
Yes, my friends, don't lose inspirations and don't be hard on yourself. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That simply means may peace and blessings be upon you. Yes, you, my friend. I wish you nothing but peace. Welcome to Abdimalik Reacts. Today, again, as you can see by the title, we are doing another video that's not Nasheed. So, with that being said, please consider subscribing to the channel if you're new and this is the first video of mine that you're watching. I do reactions. So today we're going to be reacting to a video by John Harris. This video is, he talks about how Qatar bought the World Cup. That kind of is, I'm like, what? You can buy the World Cup? Yeah, so we're going to check the video out. I have not seen it, but I have seen other videos that he made. He makes he takes a different perspective than the mass media does on things, on the topics that he covers. I don't agree with every single points that he makes in his videos, but they are pretty interesting and informative. So we're going to be checking out one of his videos on the World Cup, because as you are all aware, the World Cup is soon to start. I think it starts on Monday, if I'm not wrong. But anyways, we're going to check out this video. Let's get into it. And it's a pretty long video, so it's like 28 minutes. So grab a popcorn and let's get into it. Bismillah. Okay. Let's see how I'm gonna do this. Okay, let's go. Okay, there we go. Let me turn up the volume. This one, you know what? We're gonna add the border. Yeah, okay. All right, let's get into it. Bismillah.
This is just a game.
It's not. No, it's not. It's not just a game to people.
It's not. It's really not. It's so much more than that. I want to show you a story that feels unique to our time in history. It's a story of how the organization that controls the sport that humans love most was hijacked by a tiny country that controls the resources.
Hijacked, really, Harris? Okay, we in for
Qatar wealth from oil and natural gas,
resulting in this: a World Cup held in the desert, in a country built off fossil fuels and foreign labor, with a citizen population the size of Honolulu, Hawaii.
It is amazing though how Qatar, like just years ago, was nothing but desert, but they have developed it into this mega city that it is today. I mean, did they take all the right steps, and did they not break some laws on their way to there? Probably not. They did break a lot of laws, but the same could be said any other developing country. You know what I mean? So yeah, but I'm not justifying for what they did, but it's still, I don't know. Okay, continue.
I want to show you how this happened. How Qatar, this tiny country, beat out the US, Australia, Japan, and South Korea by convincing 14 of the 22 most powerful men in football to vote for them to become the host of the 2022 World Cup.
The winner to organize the 2022 FIFA World Cup is Qatar.
Okay,
this is a big story and I'm excited to dive in. But before we do, I need to thank today's sponsor, one of the most unique...
I'm sorry, but I'm going to skip this piece.
Land together in Scotland. Make a visual that will help us understand FIFA and why this World Cup is being held where it's being held. I want to show it to you, and I've been really wrestling with how to boil this down, and I think there's just three major things that we need to understand if we want to understand how Qatar bought the World Cup. Check this out.
Okay.
Okay. There's three major things you have to understand to make
Wait, so if you're saying Qatar bought the World Cup, does that mean all the other countries that held the World Cup before also bought the World Cup? That's a question that I would like him to hopefully he's going to answer that question, because how can he say Qatar bought the World Cup when the process is the same for all the other countries? You know what I mean? He has to differentiate how Qatar bought the World Cup but the other countries did not buy the World Cup. And he seems to allude to that the US and all Europe and all these other big countries did not end up winning because they were not able to convince these men that are, he said, I think 20 people or so, who had to vote on what country holds the World Cup. Is he saying that Qatar paid them to vote for Qatar to host the World Cup? Is that what he's saying? Yeah, okay. He has some convincing to do.
They are FIFA. You have to understand the World Cup, and you have to understand Qatar. All right, this is our list. If you understand these,
I do agree with him though. FIFA just is basically controlling majority of soccer. Like literally, they control, I think, the Premier League, the Champions League, like the Europa League, all the big leagues, La Liga. They control all that. So it's more of, they have huge control over just not the World Cup, but all the other major leagues. And that, I don't know how it came to be like that.
These three things independently, you can put them together to determine what really happened here and how this tiny desert country ended up with the World Cup. So let's start with FIFA. FIFA was started by 7 European nations in 1904. The original goal here was to help organize matches for association football, which is football. It's the thing we all know. It's the game where 2 teams of 11 players try to kick a ball into a goal. Football was no means invented here at this time at this place. People have been kicking a ball around for like a million years. But it was here in Europe in the early 1900s when the modern authority for football was born, and born in pretty humble beginnings. But FIFA quickly grew into a transnational, quasi-political authority that spans the whole globe.
That's amazing. I've been watching football, or soccer, as we call it here in the US. I know I don't agree with the name soccer. Let's move on. But I never really thought of like looking into the history of FIFA. And like I said, they do have they control literally every part of the game, but I never really bothered looking into the history. So this is very informative. I like it.
In fact, we have a map for that. So this is FIFA today. It is massive. It represents 211 countries or associations that all belong to this one giant sporting organization. It's the most powerful,
ridiculous.
Easily the most powerful sporting organization in the world. And it's got these 6 major regions or confederations. And it was the leaders from these regional confederations who in 2010 sat on FIFA's executive committee, based here in Zurich, in this bunker-like headquarters. I was actually there just a few weeks ago, actually. I'm in Zurich. This is where the FIFA headquarters, the FIFA museum are. This is where the votes happened. Please do the ceremony. Okay, let's get back to this. Here we go. The 24 most powerful men in
24, not 20,
the ones
okay.
who would go on to decide who would be the host of the 2022 World Cup. Here they are. They're just hanging out on our diagram. Sorted by their confederations. Sepp Blatter, the president, right here at the top. Swiss guy. I'm gonna cross it off. I'm gonna cross it off the list. FIFA, we didn't go over all of it. There's obviously way more to FIFA than what I just talked about. The corruption, the scandals, all of it. But for the purposes of this video, which is trying to answer the question, how did Qatar end up with the World Cup? What we need to know is what we just talked about. The executive committee, the 24 most powerful men in football. I'm gonna cross it off the list. Next on our list, the World Cup. So eventually FIFA got big enough to where they could put on a big international tournament and people would actually come. They held it in Uruguay in 1930. 13 teams participated and they called it the World Cup. It quickly became the most prestigious tournament in football and eventually would become the most viewed sports event on the planet. Beating out even the Olympics if you consider that 1.1 billion people, like a decent chunk of the entire global population, were simultaneously watching in 2018 when France beat Croatia in the World Cup final in Moscow. 1.1 billion people at the same time all watching the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane, but it's also kind of amazing. Like, what other thing brings that many people together? It is an amazing thing what global football has become.
It is. It's really amazing, wallahi.
Thanks to FIFA.
It's really amazing how that's how it is. It's crazy, but yeah. Mandela.
Sport has the power to inspire and unite people.
Facts.
I mean, I'm immediately like, actually almost crying. Like, this is beautiful stuff. Look at this. Look at this guy. Look at this. These moments of like amazing like performance, and then the reaction of these crowds. But it must be noted that when you have this much attention on one event, 13% of the entire global population watching at one time, it will quickly become less about the beauty of this game and more about, I mean, you know what I'm gonna say, more about money. With so much attention, corporations pay endless money to get their logos anywhere near this stuff. Here, or here, or here.
Yeah, this sponsorship is huge.
What blows my mind is how far governments will go to also pay endless money to get anywhere near the World Cup. Not because they make money in return like the corporations. They always end up losing tons of money. But because there's a power in having the entire world focused on your country for a few weeks.
Together, you've given the American people an extraordinary opportunity to welcome the world to our shores as host of the 2022 FIFA World Cup.
I mean, look at this. Look at this. We plotted this, actually. We found this data. Every 4 years there's a World Cup, and this is how much each of these countries...
Hold on. That is ridiculous. So wait, Russia made what? Wait, whoa. That is insane. That's like double the amount that, what do you call... Oh, shoot, let me move my thing. That is crazy. Look at this. That is insane amount of money.
have spent on their...
Wait, so hey, hold up. So if we are gonna go with what he's saying, how about Russia? Did they buy the World Cup last year? I mean, what? Not last year. 2018. Sorry, spaced out for a second. But interesting. Okay, anyways, continue.
These are, again, taxpayer money here. This is government money being invested into hosting the World Cup. Throw this sucker onto a bar chart and you get something like this. Like, it's getting out of hand. Like, every year they spend more and more and more. Oh,
that is
spoiler alert.
crazy.
Wait till I show you this graph with Qatar in the mix. Minds will be blown. I can promise you that.
Okay.
The point is that countries are willing to pay more and more to get the World Cup in their country. A moment for them to put their best foot forward on a global stage. This is what we like to call soft power. Okay, I am crossing the World Cup off of our list, not because I covered every angle of it, but because for the purposes of this story, this is what matters. Countries are more and more willing to pay unlimited amounts of money to try to get this event in their country because a billion people are gonna watch it and it makes them look good. Okay? We're crossing it off. All right, on to the last piece of our puzzle, Qatar, a country that should be pronounced Qatar, but I'm not gonna be that pretentious guy who shows up trying to like say it in the local pronunciation because it makes me sound cultured and cool. I am that guy, I'm trying to not be that guy. So for now, I'm just gonna say it like a Texas oilman says it, Qatar, okay?
Okay, we get it. We get it. Move on, Betty.
I'm going to be really quick on this history of Qatar. Like, we're not going into the full thing, okay? This is a very juicy history that I could easily do a whole video about. I'm going to give you the spark notes, which is that Qatar, for most of its history, was populated by nomadic tribes and fishing villages, whose biggest industry was pearl diving, which is like a pretty gnarly thing to do. Like, you like tie a rock around your ankle and go under to find clams and then open the clams and see if there's pearls. It was like hard work. The British eventually swooped in because the Industrial Revolution was happening and they smelled oil over here. Qatar becomes a British protectorate until 1971, when they became an independent country, an Islamic constitutional monarchy run by one family dynasty. So by the 70s, the British were gone, but crucially, the oil was not. And because of said oil, Qatar quickly transitioned from a poor tribal society to a globally connected energy hub with unlimited money. This accelerated in the 70s when Qatar won the fossil fuel lottery and discovered that they just happened to be sitting on the largest known natural gas field on the planet. This guy. They share a bit of it with the territorial waters of Iran, but most of it's theirs. Oh, and by the way, all this fossil fuel and the revenue coming from it belongs to this teeny country, which this is a very teeny country. Like, we're talking about a country that fits inside of the sole of the boot of Italy. Look at this. I mean, it doesn't totally.
We get it.
But it's tiny. And we're talking about a few 100,000 Qataris here. This isn't a big population. And yet they're all getting in on this unbelievable amount of wealth. Like, we can't fathom how rich this teeny little thumb-shaped country is.
That's the power of oil nowadays. Like,
they didn't have the labor to build the stuff that they had money for.
Yeah, that's the power of oil nowadays. It's huge, and yeah, but it's interesting.
So they started to import labor from other countries.
Yeah, this is where they went wrong. The labor, bringing in other people from India, I think, or even Pakistan and other places to get the work done, and yeah, that's where I think they went wrong. But go ahead, continue.
People who live and work here are not Qataris. They're expats from other places, 95%. Meanwhile, the teeny population that are actually Qatari citizens live very good lives. They're some of the richest people on the planet. Most of them work very cushy government jobs that pay really well. They live in a welfare state where their needs are met because there is just unlimited money for everyone in this country. Okay, that's Qatar.
Okay, now the juicy piece of his presentation. How did Qatar stole the World Cup? That's what we want to know. That's why I clicked on this video. So let's get into it.
The three pieces of our puzzle come together. Because in the 90s, Qatar starts to read the tea leaves. They start to realize that the world is going to move away from fossil fuels, the one thing that they have. Their gravy train is going to come to an end in a few decades. It's time to prepare for the future, said Qatar, by investing their billions and billions, hundreds of billions of extra dollars into anything and everything that is not fossil fuels. Diversify. So they started to everything from real estate in Singapore and New York City to buying the St. Petersburg airport in Russia to buying Miramax Films and the Italian luxury brand Valentino.
That's
like, boy, should I
that's
just make
crazy.
an entire video on Qatar Investment Authority? Because that would be juicy. In 2017, the BBC noted that Qatar owns more land in the UK than the Queen does. And
no way. Are you serious? That is insane.
Big diversifying strategic investment effort. Qatar
That's
focused
insane.
on turning their country into a global hub for prestigious international events. You see where I'm going with this? Lucky for them, there is a shortcut to the most prestigious event in the world, the World Cup. Oh, and this event happens to be run by an organization that speaks a language that they're very familiar with, the language of money and power and influence. And here's where we are. So we're back here to this web, these gatekeepers of international football, the people who voted on who was going to host the 2022 World Cup. 14 of these guys voted Qatar, and I want to know why. Qatar, a country that...
Please don't tell me that they got paid, because that would just be lame. Are you serious? Go
They
ahead,
were
go ahead.
evaluating all the bidders for the hosting, decided was not super suited for this. There's all these parameters that countries should have to be a good host. Qatar didn't really have a lot of them. And in fact, they had the opposite. Super hot weather, no widespread football infrastructure, and perhaps most strikingly, not a huge tradition of football or even a significant local population to spread football to in their place. They had a couple 100,000 people. The World Cup is supposed to bring football to new regions and spread it throughout a country. How are they going to do that in a hot desert oasis with like 300,000 people? So let's do this.
Fair point, fair point. Okay.
We're done with our list. Let's move on to the next part of this video, which is probably the part we put the most effort into, and I want you to stick with me here because the point isn't to go into every single detail of how some of this corruption went down. No one's going to remember every little detail. That's not the point. The point is to give you a sampling of the mechanics of how influence and power works, not just in FIFA, but in the international system generally, how powerful people get what they want. We'll never know for certain because this vote was secret, but we know Qatar got 14 of these guys, and I think I have a pretty good idea of how for most of them. We're gonna start with this guy. This is Mohammed bin Hammam. He's one of the executive committee members, and he's from Qatar. Okay, we can safely assume that he probably voted for his own country. But more importantly,
I mean, that's not fair though. Like, I mean, who wouldn't? If like your country bid for the World Cup and you were on the committee or whatever that does the voting, then of course you're gonna vote for your country. Who in their right mind would not vote for their country? Get out of here, man.
a big wig international football guy who helped pull the strings on everyone else on this web. Starting with this guy. Jack Warner. He's an executive committee member from Trinidad and Tobago. Leaked emails and bank records obtained by the Sunday Times revealed that before the vote, bin Hammam deposited $450,000
Oh God. Okay, go ahead.
into Warner's account, and later even more, totaling $1.6 million.
Now, if this is true, then that's just so wrong. But are you telling me there's something like this did not happen with all the other countries that held the World Cup? I have a hard time believing that. But okay, we'll go along with this.
Just like literally, like he just paid him. Like this is the simplest version. Just like I will pay you money to so you do what I want you to. It's just like so straightforward. No wonder, a month after the vote, in an email, Warner called his Qatari colleague bin Hammam, quote, the only brother I have in football. Okay, one guy down. Who else? Next, we have the 3 executive committee members from the South American Confederation. The U.S. Department of Justice has gotten involved with these guys. They recently released an unsealed indictment against all 3 of them, alleging that these 3 were, quote, offered and received bribes in exchange for their votes.
Are you serious? Is that... Are you serious? Is that what's happening with this? Well, I shouldn't be surprised, to be honest. I really should not be that surprised. I mean, the whole FIFA thing is corrupt, so I shouldn't be surprised, to be honest. But still, that's sad that who elected them to be in the seat anyways? That's what I'm curious now. Who elected them to to be on this committee or whatever?
Evidence that the DOJ is using for this case, but they're building a case. Oh, and by the way, 2 of these guys just died in like the past couple of years.
Who replaces them? How do they get replaced? Can I be on it too?
Next up, we've got these 3 guys from the Africa Confederation. A year before the vote, the African Confederation was having their annual meeting in Angola, which, by the way, was paid for by the Qatar bid team, the people who were like trying to convince people to vote for the World Cup. They paid for the whole thing. Okay, I get it. Trying to like lobby for your team, that's fine. But here's where it gets shady. While they were at this meeting, the Qatar bid team met with these 3 executive committee members. And according to a former employee who was in the room translating, the Qataris offered $1.5 million each to these guys in exchange for their promise for Qatar.
What? How is this like legal? How do they not get in trouble for this? Now I'm curious. I keep saying this because I feel like it does happen with all it. It did happen with all the other World Cups that took place. I feel like there was some bribe that did happen. I don't get why he's bringing this to only when it's Qatar. But we'll put that aside. And let's focus on like the fact that this is happening. Like how I guess you can say FIFA itself wants continue.
A year later, this employee turned whistleblower actually went back on her statement, saying that she actually lied about it and that there were no bribes.
Let me guess. She was paid?
What's your incentive to lie? But then the FBI showed up at her front door and she admitted that she was pressured to say that she had lied about it and that actually the bribes happened. I don't know, man. We don't like. I side with the whistleblower. You can decide how you feel. And now her life is basically ruined. She said in an interview that, quote,
I will always look over my shoulder for the rest of my life.
Oh, okay. And while we're talking about this, one of those three guys that apparently got $1.5 million was later filmed by undercover reporters negotiating an $800,000 bribe in exchange for his vote. Like smoking gun ads. Same thing happened to this guy, the executive committee member from the Oceania region. And they actually got disqualified from voting. So these two guys didn't actually vote.
Okay.
So we're now down to 22 EXCO members. Let's keep going.
This is juicy and interesting. I love it. Okay.
Okay, so we've gone over the instances where there was direct money given in exchange for the promise to vote.
Yeah.
The next phase of the story are more subtle versions of influence. Less overt, less smoking gunish. Like this guy from Thailand. He's the executive committee member from Thailand. 4 months before the vote, Thailand and Qatar were renegotiating an energy deal. Thailand was trying to get a better price for their natural gas, something Qatar has a lot of. But for some reason, this guy, a FIFA executive committee voting member, was at the meeting. Wait, what? Why is this football guy in the room while there's these big gas negotiations going on? Yes, I'm being coy. We know where this is going. I mean, you gotta read these leaked emails. They're so juicy. You've got a FIFA guy emailing a Qatar gas guy from Qatar Petroleum. They're talking about the development of their two football associations from their different countries. And then...
Hold on. I want to read the email. Sorry. Wow. CEO. Wow.
Saying that they're going to liaise with the CEO of the gas company to follow up about the liquid natural gas sale. I mean, it's just so clear what's going on here. Favorable terms of the deal in exchange for, hey dude, make sure to vote for our country. Oh, and who was this meeting between the gas guy and the FIFA guy arranged by? You guessed it, this guy, Mohammed bin Hammam, the executive committee member from Qatar, who's pulling all these strings. Oh, by the way, just a little side note here. Going through these leaked emails, I couldn't help but notice that the FIFA guy's email was sourpiggy at redacted. Sour Piggy? Sour Piggy. Sour Piggy's doing a lot of corruption lately. Okay.
Okay, he's having way too much fun with this.
Oh, shit. Okay, and then there's a few just like sort of circumstantial ones that give you a flavor of how this works. Like this guy who sold his family's land to Qatar a year after the vote for 27 million pounds, which was like way over asking price. And this executive committee member whose son was given a job at a private Qatari hospital shortly after the World Cup vote. Both of these guys, of course, like everyone else on this list, denies any connection that this was influence.
I mean, who's gonna say, yes, I did this? Like, come on. Of course they're gonna deny.
At the most significant moment in all of this, the thing that really tipped the scales for the vote. And it has to do with this confederation, the most powerful, the European Confederation. Specifically this guy, Michel Platini, a former French football player turned FIFA guy. He was the president of this confederation, which inevitably meant that he has sway over these other dudes.
Wow.
Just 1 week before the vote, like crunch time, Platini got an invitation that he couldn't refuse. a luncheon with the French president at his palace.
Wow.
Platini later said that before this meeting, he was planning on voting for the US to host the World Cup in 2022. But he
Really?
this luncheon. And who else is there? No big deal. Just these two guys, the most powerful dudes in Qatar. One of them, the prime minister of Qatar, and the other, the current emir of Qatar, from like the old dynasty family. It's important to remember the context here, like what's happening. This is 2010. The world has just been rattled by a global financial meltdown. And the president of France, Sarkozy, is stressed. And he's in the room with the leaders of Qatar, who are not nearly in the same financial trouble. See the section before about unlimited amounts of money thanks to fossil fuels. And it's clear that these Qataris want something that the Frenchmen in the room can deliver them. A vote for their country to host the World Cup, something they really want. According to sources close to this meeting, Sarkozy flat out told Platini to vote for Qatar. Why? Well, we'll never know. But it's clear that he wanted a few things from Qatar. In this same meeting, Sarkozy told the Qataris that he wanted Qatar to buy the French football team Paris Saint-Germain, which happens to be Sarkozy's favorite football team, and at the time was in financial ruin. After this meeting, a few important things happened. Number one, Qatar did end up buying that football team for 60 million pounds, just like Sarkozy wanted. They turned it around, and soon it became a star-studded team with merch that's worn by the world's most popular celebrities. And then we suddenly see an uptick in big trade deals between Qatar and France. Qatar Airways buys 50 giant planes from Airbus, the giant French airplane maker. I mean, if you look at what one of these planes cost in 2010.
That is insane. Like, are you serious? Wow. That blows my mind. Like, the amount of work the amount of like corruption work that's going behind the scenes is incredible.
Times it by 50.
I'm blown away. I'm so hooked onto this right now.
A massive deal. And in the end, Platini in this room with his president telling him to do what the Qataris 50 giant planes from Airbus, the giant French airplane maker. I mean, if you look at what one of these planes cost in 2010, times it by 50, we're looking at $18 billion. A massive deal.
18. I can't even wrap my mind around that. 18 billion. I don't know if whether to say mashallah or I don't know. That's insane.
And in the end, Platini in this room with his president telling him to do what the Qataris want. We need them right now. And it worked. Michel Platini flipped his vote from the USA to Qatar. He admitted it later. That's not even speculation.
Excuse me, guys.
The president of the executive committee, Sepp Blatter, was pissed about this and later said that this was the defining moment for Qatar winning.
They have influenced Michel Platini at that time to vote for Qatar.
Wait, so he knew about it. Did he do anything to that Platini guy? Is he kicked out of the committee or is he still in the committee, I wonder? Or FIFA just lets them get away with it?
Because remember, Platini then went back to his European Confederation with 8 executive committee members, 8 votes, and he almost certainly influenced others to join him. One book I read claims that he took 4 votes with him, but we'll never know. And then, on a cold day in December of 2010, the day of the vote came.
The 2022 FIFA World Cup.
So on that fateful day in the winter of 2010 in Zurich, all the guests arrive because it was voting day.
Clearly, I think we had an absolutely fantastic bid.
Well, we got a great bid, so we just got to go in there and give it everything that we've got.
These 22 men cast their votes in multiple rounds.
It's so, you know what I'm finding out? It's so messed up whenever there are like these kind of voting or bids and things like this happen. The people that actually are voting, their mind is already made up way before the thing even starts. So all these countries putting in their bid was pointless because the guys who are actually voting have already made up their mind. They've already been paid or they've already just did their research and stuff or whatever, and they already know who they're going to vote for. They already know who is going to be bidding. So it kind of defeats, I don't know, it's crazy.
until a majority victor emerged. At least 11 of them
Are you serious?
voted from Qatar since round 1. And finally, 14 votes were delivered to Qatar, a majority, and almost double what the USA got.
That is insane. But I wonder, here's the other thing I wonder. I wonder if the US and all the other countries did try to persuade the voters, the committee or whatever, to vote for their country, but the US and other, or like Australia and all the other countries that were listed there did not pay enough. just thinking out loud, I guess. But that's still insane. That, wow.
So yeah, that's how it went down. That's how it went down. Like, look, we'll never know exactly what happened. A lot of this stuff we know because it leaked out and we were able to put it all together. But
interesting.
The fact is, every one of these men has been involved in some corruption investigation. I mean, it's no surprise that this stuff happened, and probably so much more. FIFA is
Wait, repeat that. I want to know the story behind this guy throwing money at the president of FIFA.
Happened, and probably so much.
Look at him, he got scared for a second.
Been involved in some corruption investigation. I mean, it's no surprise that this stuff happened, and probably so much more. FIFA is corrupt to the core. Qatar didn't make this happen.
There's no question about that.
Qatar saw an organization that spoke their language, the language of unlimited money, and they used that to get what they wanted, to prepare for the future, to diversify, to get the world to look at them.
That is crazy.
It is the biggest event in the world.
So no, this isn't just a game. The reason why all of this matters is because football can be a beautiful thing. No matter what language someone speaks, or their politics, or their god, or whatever, they have this universal language, this game, a global culture full of screaming and cheering and crying and pride and identity. It's ridiculous, yet so beautiful, so uniquely human. And in a very real way, football is a mirror to the world. What's acceptable here in this most revered sport is what's acceptable everywhere. So, by using money and influence to get the bid for the World Cup, Qatar showed us just how power works in our world. They showed us who really matters and who doesn't, and validated an old idea that the rules of fair play don't really matter if you have enough money.
Interesting.
Hey, thanks for watching.
That was a very interesting video. I'm not too surprised that there was corruption involved. I feel like every other country that hosted the World Cup did one way or another try to bribe. But it was interesting to see how it actually went down, like what happened behind the scenes for the World Cup to be hosted in Qatar. So I guess he should probably make a video on how Russia stole the World Cup. I don't know. But anyways, this was interesting. If you stayed through the whole video, then that's to you. Hats off to you. So yeah, anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. I will see you guys in the next video. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Again, that simply means may peace and blessings be upon you. Yes, you. Salam.
Don't lose inspiration. Don't be hard on yourself. You're one in a billion. You motivate the ones you love. You got your own way. You find in places no one finds. You right at the shadow. Now you'll be just fine.